Welcome to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf, a space for women healing from betrayal to reconnect with their mind, body, and soul, one page at a time. I'm Rachel Strong-Smith, a betrayal trauma coach who's walked this path myself. In each episode, we'll explore books that speak to the heart of recovery, books that validate your experience, offer insight, and remind you that you're not alone. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about coming home to yourself. So, whether you're in the thick of survival or finding your way back to solid ground, pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Hi, welcome back to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf. I am so glad you're here. We are going to keep talking about Sarah Morales' workbook, Take Your Power Back, all about gaslighting. I hope you've had a chance to look at the interview that I did with Sarah Morales, and it was just such an honor. I thought for this podcast, we're going to experiment here. I'm going to go through Sarah's map and go with a real life situation. I actually already did some work with it and was able to find some tactics, but I didn't follow the whole map. And so I thought, I'm going to do that with you and just let's see what happens. This is me looking at it, retroactively. This person that I had multiple interactions with as I was trying to wrap my head around what was happening. It was really helpful to identify what the gaslighting tactics were. It kind of helps to break some of the power from it. And so I really found that it was helpful to do that. I also kept all the correspondence in writing. It was a boundary that I set that I don't want to do talking in person, because what I found was I would get quite discombobulated when it was happening in real time. And so I needed in writing the communication. And that was really invaluable to me because then I could look at what the words that were being used. The truth is I can still feel the energy through the conversation in writing. I could feel that energy. I got Sarah Morales's note cards, or her deck, and holy cow, I love it. It is going to be a tool that I use. I want to put kind of a disclaimer here. I just want to acknowledge the depth and the breadth of really understanding gaslighting and what's happening and the process. This is not a fast process. This is not a read the workbook and now you've got it all figured. No, this is slow. This is years. This is multiple iterations. And for me personally, this has taken a lot of just introspection and discernment, really, because in the gaslighting, there is kind of a morality that if you discern, you are the messed up one here. So why don't we do this? Let's dive in. I'm not quite sure how this is going to look, so just stay with me. Let's see. Let's start with some tactics. So these were written communication that I had with this person. A little bit of context. I'm not going to tell you the person or the relationship that the person is. I will tell you it's not my husband. And while he did engage in gaslighting tactics, techniques, and methods, absolutely, I am going with this one because I didn't have a lot of written communication with him. Again, I have done my process and looked at those gaslighting techniques, and they were prevalent and they did cause a lot of damage. But this one, I have actual quotes from what happened. So that's where I thought it would be really interesting. So I went through, and these were some tactics with words of what they were saying. So I took the communication and I put them in here. So here's I'll read a couple of different ones. So love bombing. That's the first. tactic is what it's called. And I'm going to be reading on my screen here. So love bombing first is a distraction technique. It's intense, gift giving, really treating you amazing, like a queen, pretend like nothing happened. These are some actual phrases. I will still be nice and try to show love the way I know how. And there was a behavior that was a pretty big boundary cross where this person came and like started to talk to me when I had established that I wasn't ready to talk. Again, the context is this is a person that I had set some boundaries with that I wanted to have less contact because of some other specific things that had happened. So this is in the space I have said, I need space, I need time, and I will let you know. And this person came up to me even when I had requested that. And so this was me reiterating, no, thank you. And then it was, well, I'm just trying to be nice to show up. And then this person sent me flowers, a big bouquet of flowers. And another thing was some pretty big gift giving in addition to those flowers. So, and this was again in the context not really appropriate for what needed to happen. It was, I had said, no, thank you, I'm not interested. And then this person proceeded to override that. All right, here is a tactic that is projecting. It is assigning undesirable emotions onto somebody else, and that's placing their own negative traits or unwanted emotions onto the other person. It's kind of this Darvo in the attack part of the gaslighting projects onto the negative emotion. So essentially, they become the victim and you become the person that has the problem. So these are quotes. I'm not the first one you have given the silent treatment to for months because they said something you didn't like. I have tolerated your insults, your lack of gratitude time after time, and so have others. So we may come to a point it isn't worth it to either of us. I'm guessing your list is long. You're being an example to your children of how to deal with you when something goes wrong, and it will. You're not an exception, so good luck with that. And so this place was, and yeah, this is pretty intense for me to relive. And you know, I sense this like, what if people hear this and think, well, did you do that? And so I'm gonna just pause here and say, you know, I know how I showed up. I know that I didn't give anyone a silent treatment. I know that I haven't been cruel or unkind. I have set some boundaries. I have been clear about my needs. That is true. I have done that. And it is true that this person is hurt. And I do not feel that I was out of alignment in my values. So that is what's happening. So then there is exaggerated wounds. This one can look like, you see, when we even border on trying to resolve this, it never ends well. You shut down. The conversation can't happen. I don't trust you. And it was, I have boundaries too. You won't hear from me. And by the time you connect with me, hopefully I will still feel safe enough to talk to you. I think I said, I don't feel safe. And so it was just a turn on. And again, these tactics, like I put them in the double speak mind games because that's what made sense to me. Let's see. Let's move to the next. Whew. Highlighting flaws, brainwashing. The gaslighter paints them as flaws, criticizing exaggeration of faults, using normal human feeling like anger and presenting it worse than it actually is. Ridicule, talking about someone with contempt and belittling, that's a little more subtle, but there is energy in that tone. Cutting remarks like ridicule, but more direct and unkind. It's intended to hurt someone's feelings. So these are some quotes. I think I just need to tell you that your unwillingness to even be friendly makes you unapproachable to me. I can't talk about things that matter if you can't just start by being nice. It honestly feels like you want or prefer things to be this way so you don't have to deal with me. I'm sorry you feel I need an appointment with you, but it doesn't even start with a welcoming environment. So no. So this was in context of a request to, rather than approach me in public, to please send a text to request a conversation, and then I will answer honestly about where I am. And so that was the response. I just want to be clear, like, that is okay if this person chooses not to engage and, text for a conversation. But I also am not okay with the physical approach. And so that's just where I am. But, for me, it was okay, then we won't have the conversation. So here we are on highlighting the flaws. I don't want to have a conversation and basically a relationship with you if you think you need to dictate how, when, where, and what the conversation and relationship is going to be. It is not equitable, even in the initial demands. You're not requesting, you're demanding. You are telling me how to act, and you are acting dysfunctional. You have nothing to lose that you really care about in this, so I won't be manipulated by you because of it. In truth, you are being cruel and merciless. You may be fixing one area, but you're doing a lot of damage with this approach. I hope it's worth it to you in the end. For me, that one is a really big one. Like, I don't want to be controlling or demanding. I actually really value having a relationship that is, two-way relationship. And so that one is, it's those buttons that push, and then I'm going, oh, so wait, am I being that way? Like, this person is saying that I am, so I must be. Like, I don't want to be that way. But when I'm in a safe place to be able to really process this, I can look at, okay, am I demanding this? And while this person is saying I am, when I look at it and really say, no, I don't feel that I am. I feel, again, aligned in my values. And in order to do that, I have to know what my values are, right? Let's kind of stop there. That was kind of a lot. And go into the techniques. So those are the tactics. And those were multiple tactics, okay, over the span of a period of 6-ish months. This is where I need my glasses. All right. So techniques, really, when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing manipulation, trying to manage or influence skillfully in an unfair manner, mind games, actions intended to affect how someone thinks and feels, especially in order to make them confused and less confident, diversion, an activity that diverts the mind from the tedious or serious concerns. And that's where kind of that love bombing comes in. Coercion, a form of aggressive behavior, practice of compelling a person to involuntarily behave in a certain way, to use threats, intimidation, or some other pressure or form. Brainwashing, forcible indoctrination to induce someone to give up their basic beliefs and attitudes. That one to me did look like, well, you're being controlling because this person thinks that, wants to convince me that I am, in order for me to believe that is true. That is what that looks like. And so I think those were kind of the main techniques. And then if I zoom out even further into the methods, really, I'm looking at method 1 with Jarvo. It's that defend, attack, reverse, victim, offender. There it was that you are the one who did this. You are the one who is causing all of the problems. And when you're hearing that, it feels like, oh, well, gosh, I don't want to be the problem here. And so again, it's really easy to fall into that because it touches on that core, well, I don't want to be the problem. And so for me, what that looked like was I really had to dive in deep to my own truth and see, what is it about somebody thinking that I'm the problem that really hits me. So for me, I really did not want to be the villain in somebody else's story. That was a really big, button for me. Like, if somebody thinks I'm the villain, then it must be true. And there was a lot of healing that I worked through about that, because what happened was as I was going through this and really becoming the villain in somebody else's story, I wrote a song about what that was like for me. And it was very empowering because it's saying, yeah, you know what? If I need to be the villain in your story, okay, I'm not going to be in this relationship. That doesn't work for me. I know who I am, and that's enough. That is very healing, and I'm continuing to heal that. But when I kind of found, yeah, I never want to be the villain in somebody's story. But the truth is, no matter what I do, I may be the villain in somebody's story. And that isn't, again, that isn't apathy. That isn't letting go of who I am. It's not overcompensation or undercompensation. It is acceptance of the reality that I may be, and so both are true, and I am staying aligned with my values. Now, if I am not staying aligned with my values, and this is where it gets kind of confusing, because yeah, if I'm not showing up how I really want to, then I want to take accountability for that. And what I found was, with people who were gaslighting me, that was used against me, unfortunately. And so what I found was, I can be accountable to me and my higher power. And, that may or may not be, I'm going to go back into that relationship. Now, in safe relationships, absolutely, I can come and show up and say, yeah, hey, this isn't how I wanted to show up. And, have a conversation about that. And, but the other way is, maybe that's not going to be in the relationship because that's not safe. Like, if the relationship isn't safe, but I know I'm going to be making amends. And something that for me looked like, when I was doing my inventory in step 4, I actually found the amends really was that I wasn't holding the boundaries before. And so now I'm showing up holding my boundaries with clarity and not trying to control and not trying to manage the outcome. But I am the one who knows that of what's going on in me, not the people around me. And that's my work to do. So I would say that that method of Darvo was probably the biggest one. A little bit of challenging my own validity, like my thoughts, my beliefs, perception, feelings, needs are just not okay. Like, me needing space was like, no, that isn't okay. Well, we're kind of towards the end. That was just the beginning part. Just to end, highlighting on looking at the traps, the risks, the vulnerabilities. I found that for me, learning about those, it wasn't about victim blaming or as if I'm in charge of making sure nobody gaslights me. It's about coming to know myself. Like I said, one of my big buttons was being a villain in somebody's story. So to understand that about me and heal that wound and get curious about it with my self-compassion is where I can begin. There's these vulnerabilities. I'll briefly go through them, going back on your boundaries, people pleasing, self-gaslighting, making concessions, dismissing or ignoring your gut. And the tricky thing about these is, the more that you're in a gaslighting situation, the more these vulnerabilities are exploited, and then the stronger they get. That's what I found for me. So it was, I would maybe try to have a boundary, but then I would get punished. And so I would try to, like, okay, well, maybe not, or people pleasing, right? This is with my extreme fear of being the villain in somebody's story, right? It's like, okay, I got to change myself to fit so that they are pleased. And I'm going to put a little plug. We're going to have Molly Moon Davis on here. She is the guru of boundaries, in my opinion. And I did her course, and it was life-changing for me to understand that because somebody is having an emotional experience, that is theirs. It's not that I am going to go and change that. It's that theirs doesn't necessarily come in to change mine. So I have to be clear on what's going on for me. And, and here's, again, one of my things is like, well, I've got blind spots and I don't totally see everything and know everything. And yeah, that is true. But why fill those in with somebody who has an agenda to change me in order to please them because they have unresolved things? So what I found is, yeah, I can definitely, like, if someone's like, you have really deeply hurt me because da 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 da, you can be like, okay, and you get curious, and depending on the safety of the relationship, okay, tell me more about that. What tends to happen if it's an unproductive conversation is, well, you're just being a da 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 da, and there's a lot of name calling. A productive conversation looks like, well, when you did this, this is how I felt, and this is what I experienced. And I can, and either way, whichever way they show up, it just means how much can I communicate with them and have that relationship. But either way, I can go, okay, like, I hear that. Let me check in with myself and my higher power and look at that. And it sounds so much easier. It's not easy, but I can go, oh, okay, they're feeling like that. Okay, what do I feel good about how I showed up, even though they are having a negative experience or reaction? And again, I get it. It's a lot, but really, when I do the deeper work, I can find that truth and that alignment. And in this context, in this situation that I'm sharing with you, I do feel aligned with how I did it. Am I perfect? No. Is anybody perfect? No. But that's not what this is about. This is about, I can describe what's going on with me internally, what I need, and I am proactively placing those boundaries that I need for my own safety because I know where I am. Take that for what you will. This has been a very vulnerable experience for me to share that with you. I also recognize that it may be, people may have thoughts or judgments about me and my situation and how I've handled things. And I do accept that. It is hard. It is still hard to accept that. But I do feel clarity of how I have shown up and where I'm at and what I'm experiencing. And I'm continuing to learn and grow and deepen my experience with myself and in relationship with others. So take what resonates from this, leave the rest. This is my sharing. Find yours, find your experiences. This is a great tool to just kind of get it clearer in your mind. And the more that we show up with that, the more clarity we find, the more experiences that we have. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, take what resonates, leave the rest. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me today on the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf. If something from this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend or come connect with me online. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Rachel Strong Smith. And if you want to go deeper, sign up for my email newsletter, where I share grounded support, personal insights, and practical tools to help you reconnect with yourself. Remember, healing isn't a straight line. It's a spiral, and every step towards yourself matters. So until next time, take gentle care.